Crafters, in today's tutorial we'll be covering singeing. Singeing to start and singeing to end. So we're going to get you on both sides. Let's kick this off with a list of tools that you might find handy. Obviously a pair of scissors. I like a good long pair of scissors mainly because paracord doesn't seem to slip off the end so much if you have a little more room to work with. A pair of needle nose pliers and a pair of snub nose pliers. You can get away with one or the other. I prefer to use both. If you're going to use the ones out of your toolbox, make sure that you clean them up because you don't want to get any grime, grease, or grit on your paracord. Nobody wants a dirty bracelet. I've got a needle here. It's just a basic yarn needle. You can find this in any crafting store or discount mart like Walmart or Target or places like that. You can also obviously use a leatherworking needle, which is flat with a large hole. The big thing is when you go to buy needles, take a piece of paracord with you and make sure that you can actually get it through that hole. I've also got two lighters here. I've got a Zippo and I've got a butane torch. And the reason why I have both of them is to kind of show the difference in the pros and cons of each. The nice thing about a Zippo is it looks cool. Most of us who smoke have 1, 2, 3 of these kicking around, so it's really convenient to use. Same thing with Bics. They're small, they fit in your pocket real nice, that type of things. The problem with a Zippo or a Bic lighter is that the flame is not directional. So if you need to get in from the side, you really can't. And if it's a windy day or you're in a room with a ceiling fan, as I happen to be, your flame is going to go all over the place. Onto the butane torch. Now, I actually just picked this one up specifically for crafting. This stays in my toolkit and never leaves my paracord kit. They cost about $5, and then you'll spend another $2 or $3 on butane, so grand total of $8 to $10. But in the long run, it's going to save you money simply because you're not going to have to throw this away when it dies. You're just going to refill it. I've been using this one now for about 3 weeks and haven't refilled it yet. So the great thing about a butane torch is that the flame is directional. If you want to work this way, you can. If you want to work this way, you can. If you want to work upside down, you can. It does get a little warm that way because heat rises. However, it's possible. So let's jump right into this. I've just got a couple of pieces of scrap here for this demonstration. So what you're going to do is get a fresh cut on it. And with the lighter of your choosing, get them nice and melty. There's a couple of theories that you have to melt it until you have a huge bulbous ball of plastic on the end. I just like enough so that when I press them together, they stay. Once you have them together and they're kind of holding their own, just take those snub nose pliers, you can use needle nose for this as well, and crimp it together. And just kind of hold it for a second. I mean, it's going to dry out and firm back up pretty quickly. What ends up happening is instead of having your plastic be a ring, or your nylon be a ring all the way around the outside, you're essentially crimping it down so it'll cover both sides of the paracord, and it gives you a nice firm hold. If you've done what I've done and you end up with a little extra bit of plastic on the side, not to worry, take your handy scissors, keep your fingers out of the way, and just snip that off. Alright. If you cut a little too close and you hit the paracord on the side, don't fret, just take your lighter and run it along that edge real quick. You don't want to melt it, you just want to heat it enough so it sticks to itself. And there you go. So that's a pretty flat singe. On to finishing a bracelet. Now, obviously, I made this one. One of the tips that I can give you is before you singe and clip your ends, form it into a bracelet. If you're using plastic buckles, then clip your buckles together. If you're using a knot and loop system, then put those together. If you're using a button and a loop, put those together. The reason being is because there's always a chance that your bracelet is going to twist, turn, slide. It may do something that you don't understand or that you don't like. If you've already finished off your bracelet, you've lost your slack to play with. So if you have to take that bracelet apart and finish it, you're probably going to end up making it a half a size smaller. And nobody wants to do that. It's a waste of paracord. Alright, so all we're going to do is I'm going to do one side at a time. All right, give yourself a fresh cut because you want something nice and pretty to get into your needle. All right, you don't have to pull it through a super amount. The paracord is dense enough that it's not really going to go far. And then this being your last stitch, the last one that you put in, you got to kind of work your way under. Now be careful, because if you puncture the paracord on your way through, you're going to have an issue getting this through. So you just kind of want to slide it. If you hit resistance, then wiggle it a little bit until you're out of that resistance. All right, get it in kind of until it wants to come out, and usually it's right where your bracelet actually starts to curve. You kind of end up with this flat section and then it'll curve. Just pull that through. If you've got the hand strength to do it this way, and it's going to work for me, awesome. Okay, if you have problems, that's what the pliers are for. Use your pliers to grab your needle and yank it out. If you notice, my needle's pretty beat up, and that's from pliers. I only use this needle for this specific purpose. All right, let's get the other side done here. So again, thread your needle. Just give yourself a little tail. It doesn't have to be drastic. Get that in there. Once you have the first one done, the second one's a lot easier because you've already given it a channel to go down. You want to bring that out at the same place that you brought the other one out. And of course, this one's not going to work so well. All right. Take your needle off and set it to the side. All right. So now what you want to do is you want to guarantee that you've got a little bit of room in which to hide your singe. And the way that you do that is to actually grab the top of your bracelet, grab your other your two ends in your hand, and yank. Okay? You want this really tight. All right, and if you'll notice, it kind of distorts your first and second stitch. It's okay, we're going to fix that. Take your handy scissors and snip right down at the end. Okay, I usually set mine right on top of the bracelet, snip across. So you're going to end up with these little itty-bitty pieces that are hanging out. This is when that butane liner comes in handy, because you can do this without singeing everything around it. You notice there's no singe points on my white that surrounds this. I specifically use this bracelet because white has a tendency of turning black. One thing I have noticed with a butane lighter is that white does not darken up quite as much. All right, so now you've got these two ends that are poking out. Remember, I told you we distorted your first two stitches on purpose. Needle nose pliers. There's a loop here and a loop here. These are where you just tucked your ends. So if you grab that loop and just kind of slide it a little bit. You don't want to slide it so much that you end up with this big honking loop at the end, but just enough so it's not distorting your stitch anymore. And get the other side. All right. Now, some days this works out really well. Your ends slide right in, and it's beautiful. On the days that it doesn't, don't worry. This is why you use needle nose pliers. You take that, and you kind of push them. And if you notice, I'm not so much pushing up. I'm actually pushing down. What you want to do is try and get those ends down in your core. If you push up, you stand the chance of actually pushing them up and out. So now I've got this bubble. Not a problem. The great thing about these bracelets is they're so flexible and you can work with them. So what you're going to do is just kind of, play with it. Use your fingers, use your fingernails, use whatever you have on hand to smooth it out and make it look like it doesn't exist. And I didn't do that very well. There we go. If you're having issues with your singe being too big, just keep pushing at it. It'll go down. There we go. So now, my singe is actually like right here. But to the average Joe, there's no singe point and there's no ends on that. I hope this tutorial helps you. And if there's anything else that I'm doing that you might want to know about, let me know.